Okay,
Here you thinking.
we're ready.
Committee of the Whole meeting. Go ahead, Gary.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Commissioners.
Madam Chair, can I take roll, please?
We have to take the roll. And for anybody who may be watching on YouTube, we did have some technical difficulties, so we apologize. We're starting late.
We are.
Oh, do you want me to start that roll?
No. Commissioner Coring,
I'm here.
Commissioner Lubke,
I'm here.
Commissioner Barrows,
Here.
Commissioner Franzine,
Here.
Commissioner Hoag.
Here.
All members are present. Okay.
All right, well, good morning, Commissioners. Today, we definitely, in the spirit around Christmas, also celebrate teams. So I brought, a couple of teammates to correct me when either I don't remember correctly or they actually know the work better than I do. The first thing we wanted to start off, though, is announce to you we have filled the Environmental Services Supervisor position, which oversees all of our forestry, our recreation, daily operations at the landfill with the recycling building. And today we have Tom Strack has been given that promotion. So just wanted to announce that to you folks first and foremost.
You're going to do a great job, Tom.
Yeah, good things to come there.
Excellent choice.
First thing we are talking about today, it's been a little while since we've given you an update on the remonumentation efforts here in Crow Wing County and how it's been going with our county surveyor. In 2022, it was around October, we decided to, with your approval, try a contracted service instead of having an in-house surveyor. So 2023 really was the first full year that we have had that. I've only been here since 2009, but we've always had in-house survey services, and this was our first full year with that since I've been here. And what I just wanted to say is, if you had any questions, but I wanted to give you some highlights on. We've contracted with KLD now, and they have done stellar work. I know that you don't expect me to come up here and tell you anything other than good stuff from the services we provide, but we haven't heard one issue from customers. The timeliness, responsiveness, he's very reputable, that company with the survey community. He's helped our staff in many things, just a lot of good things. And if you see on the first slide there, it's almost half price, at least this year. I mean, that could fluctuate with, if we go back 2 or 3 years ago where we had 1,800 permits and so many subdivisions going on, that would fluctuate a little bit. But all in all, really good stuff. So we have Jim here. If you have any questions of him or stuff, we would love to see you grill him a little bit. He's always up for the challenge, but just wanted to start there with a very significant change. First year, it's a little over a year now, but our first full year, it's been just a really good decision. Any questions? While he's, no?
I think, Madam Chair, as long as he's doing a stellar job like that, we should not bring him up and harangue him. So
Okay,
that
that's,
he doesn't want to do it any longer.
is this working now? Perfect. Okay. Oh, you can't get it either? Oh, gotcha. Yeah, it's not working.
Try again. No.
Oh,
No.
oh, there we go. I'll trade you. Gotcha. So the first thing we're gonna try to update you on is the remonumentation efforts. So currently in the county, we believe there's 4,384 corners. The first year I was, I don't know that anybody remembers. I know I remember, so I try to deliver on what I tell you guys. In 2017, when you gave me the opportunity as director, I believed we maybe could get the completion done in 7 years, 6, 7 years. I was like, we'll be able to get that done. Here we are, going on my 6th year, and I have to report that we're about 54%. I say that because I just got to own up to that. I've learned a lot in the survey world. But I think we have a really good process moving forward that hopefully you guys continue to support. But currently, we are 54% of this county has certified coordinate locations. They're recorded with coordinates, monumented, and that's, so we're really high confidence that it actually is where it needs to be, the location of it. The importance of this, as we talk a little more, is the corners really form the basis. So one of the heaviest used tools for our public is they go on our GIS map. And they're, if you look at the numbers, I'm sure you get a report out from IT, I think once a year on use. Our GIS map is probably easily, 100 times more used than a lot of other things, other than maybe the in-jail list I know is really popular. And folks really are trusting that it's accurate. It forms the basis for our acreage in our tax system, which, will generate a value and eventually a tax. And then when you have these corners verified like they are, or we call them certified, if you need to go get a survey, your survey can be that much cheaper because your surveyor ain't gonna have to do all this extra work to start with certifying a corner and then break it down to your specific location. So we believe that we don't see it on our scoreboard, but it is helping save money out there in our community by continuing having a really good public land survey system verified or certified. So what we've done is since 2016 anyways, we've spent a little over about $330,000 in remonumentation efforts. We've had contracted services in-house, so we were just talking about with Jim, that does our boundary line adjustments, reviews our plats, admin subdivision process that we have. And there's a lot of other things that we help highway with. They have technicians when they really get into some ambiguity or legal stuff, they'll bring in Jim to really help on, if they need some of that. So that's all that. And then we have this piece of remonumentation that's separate than that we have spent about $330,000 in addition to our survey costs in-house for trying to keep our PLSS system accurate, in place, and so that everybody knows where the property lines for the most part are. At the end of the day, we think it's a good investment. The $330,000 has come from the land-based unallocated fund. So that's a fund that every time a document is recorded, a piece of the $46, I can't remember exactly how much, goes into different funds. One's a recorder technology fund. Part of it goes back to the state, they get a chunk of it. And there's also a land-based unallocated fund that it goes into. And we've been using that to really fund our monumentation efforts here and not have it hit the levee. And so that's how we've been, I guess you can say, trudging along. A little history on the PLSS. My understanding, Crow Wing County, this was done a long time ago, but we started this remonumentation effort back in 1981. We had a county surveyor. They had 6 surveyors that worked for them for 20-some years. And here we are yet past doing different contracts, sitting at 54% certified at a very high confidence. And we do have corners out there that are located. The ones in the red, on this chart here that we have really not a lot of data, you'll see that a lot of that is in the northern area where a lot of that is hundreds and hundreds of acres of tax forfeited property or public land that, while it would be good someday to potentially tighten all that up, that hasn't been the highest priority. The highest priority has been private ownership, where people have been having concern or issues, which has been more of the densely populated areas.
Madam Chair, Gary, if I could just ask a question, go back a little bit. You said that the state gets a percentage of that $46 of that.
They take a percentage of that.
They take it.
Yeah.
What do they do to earn that?
I'm not trying to be smart. I suppose they give us the authority to record the documents. I suppose they are our overseers. Other than that, we do all the work here, you
We
know.
hold all the records and we do all the
Correct.
work. We
That is
contract
correct.
with the contractor. We do all that. So I'm not sure why the state, how they can justify taking a piece of the pie.
The distribution of the fee is set in statute,
Yeah,
and so it is difficult for us to answer your question because we do not know what the legislature was thinking. That's what I would say is, we do not know what the legislature was thinking.
thank you, Tim. I concur with that.
Well, and I understand, and I anticipated that was the answer, but when we talk about our fees, we have to justify to the best of our ability why we're charging that amount. I don't see where the state can justify theirs, but that's my opinion.
That same concept applies to political subdivisions. It does not apply to the state of Minnesota. The sovereign has chosen not to apply that standard to itself.
Yeah.
Oh, isn't that scary?
It's not the only area in which
Correct.
the sovereign has chosen to apply a different standard for itself.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The reason, and I got to back up a second, the reason why we are here today is there will be a little bit of an ask at the end of this to bring a grant request forward. So I should lead with, there's going to be a little consideration for you on a funding source. So as I'm rambling, hopefully you have that if you have any questions on that. For 2023, what this chart is going to show you is that we took the townships of Ideal in the first assessment district, and we contracted with KLD, and we got them to 100% now that they are in those townships, we believe are done and certified. What that looks like, this is the final product that we've received on both of those areas. It is a certificate of survey that we have recorded that any surveyor can use. It has the list of all of the sections, the corners, and then it also tells about the document where they can go and find it, so they can use that to start their survey work, which should expedite the process for any surveyor. And then they're all kind of playing with the same, let's say, deck, you know, or same data. So hopefully over time, our line work in our county will only get that much better as the basis is standardized. So for 2024, we're looking at 406 monuments. We go through a process with KLD that they comb through, and for many years, I call it kind of like the shotgunning of this county. Instead of doing total areas as far as a city or a township, we have went and said, I think these 15 over here are more important, and then we should do 15 here and 10 here. And so there's a smattering of certified corners around. What we're trying to do is systematically work through the county, and we have Jim comb all of these corners to see which ones are good and do exist, and we believe are certified. And this is filling in the gaps or the holes in that grid to get these areas up to basically 100% certified. So what we propose in 24 is to go out and try to do a 406. That's more than we've done in a long time. Last year was only like 160, so this is pretty ambitious. But the reason for the ask on for the 406 comes to kind of the ask here is new with all of that spending that happened with the surplus. One of the little pieces of that was there was $10 million set aside for specific work for this for counties to go after to have help with updating their PLS system. And so what we are proposing is that we also make a grant application request. In talking with Jim, he sits on the committee that helps decide some of the, let's say, operating rules, you know, how this is going to be settled out to different counties depending on applications, the timing, when you got to get things done, when are you going to get the money, all of that kind of stuff. And what we would like to do is come to the next county board with a request for the board to support an application to see if we can't get up to $300,000 to supplement our efforts and maybe fast forward some of that 54% of this county that's totally for sure done, to push that thing as quick as we can. Internally, we were looking at, well, really, what are we up against? Let's say if we were able to do 300 a year, so we're probably still 7, 8, 9 years of heavy remonumentation work to get the county to where we could really say, that work's done. We really need to talk about just a maintenance program and stuff, but we haven't been able to get to that. Different reasons, but the excuse here is we haven't had a potential tool like this. It comes down to funding a lot of times and where the money comes from. But it would be great if we could get a really significant sum of money to help supplement our efforts. We still will need to be invested. We planned on, if we didn't get a grant at all, we still are going to be about 65,000 out of that land-based unallocated to continue these efforts. My understanding with the grant, though, they do need to see that the counties are also in on the deal, not 100% through this grant source.
Is it a matching grant, do you know, Gary?
Not a total matching grant, no. But in the criteria when they award out the grants, my understanding is the counties that have significant skin in the game are going to get probably a priority over others that aren't doing that.
Does the state have a requirement that we have these done by a certain date or a certain time? They're just saying, when you get time, go out there and reestablish these monuments?
So that actually varies from county to county. Some counties don't have any effort in this at all, and they just leave it all to the private world. There is no, there's statute.
There'll be grant limitations.
Oh, yeah, the grant limitations for this, yeah. But as far as how fast, maybe that's what you're talking about, the grant? My bad.
No, I mean, because, you know, it looks like we have an effort that we've made in this county to do that.
Boy, huge effort,
You know, are we ahead of the curve or behind the curve? We're ahead of the curve. So let's keep ahead of the curve.
I believe outstate, other than a couple of counties, we're sitting pretty good. More of the metro counties, I think, are even better off than us. They've thrown a lot more resource at it than we have, so it's, you know, we're kind of sitting there.
Madam Chair, if I might, Gary, you're talking about 406 this coming year. You admit that that's aggressive. So my question might be to Mr. Kramer, if we're pushing that number, do you have the capacity to address that?
Madam Chair, my name is Jim Kramer, for those of you who don't know me. Do we have capacity? Yes. We do this same work for Beltrami County, for Clearwater County, for St. Louis County. It's a large portion of our workload. 400 corners is a pretty robust number to grab. Typically in the counties we've done, and I'm trying to use a comparison here, but we've done this work in Beltrami and Clearwater for probably 20 years. In a typical year in those counties, we do 200 to 300 corners a year. And it's not just a sense of sheer workload, because I think any company out there could just go out and try to hire enough personnel to cover it. But I think you got to think about this is that this is a long-term goal, and you're most likely looking at, if we're looking at 2,000 corners to finish up the county, I mean at the 400 corner clip, you're basically finishing the county in 5 years. I think that's probably aggressive. I think it's doable. I think we can do that for you. I just sometimes wonder from the perspective of whether I'm the consultant or you have another consultant or if you have in-house personnel, you ramp up for this huge amount of workload, but all of a sudden there's just this cliff at the end where it stops. Or in this case, this legislation, which the legislation's been pushed by the survey GIS community for many, many years. It was authorized last year and it's 2 years. So there's $10 million a year for 2 years, and then it's going to need reauthorization here in the next biennium. So there's this thing about trying to ramping up personnel to deliver what the workload you want, and then all of a sudden in 2025, 26, we have zero funding. We're back at this level of wondering what to do. Can we do it? Yes, and that's a long monologue I probably shouldn't have went into. I think the mindset should be that you should try to use the grant to leverage as much as you can. I think what's going to happen on the grant applications is that counties are going to get ranked, basically based on the amount of finances they have in overall county budget divided by the amount of corners that they have done. So if you looked at a county like Hennepin or Stearns, right, all the ones around the metro area, they're 100% complete. So they're going to rank very, very low on the criteria list. So Crow Inc's probably going to be in the middle. So you have a very, very, very high chance of getting what you ask for. This is what this legislation was for. It was exactly the work we're talking about. I would probably promote the idea of you move forward with the grant application, the attempt to get what you can and leverage this thing. Because you are in a program, you're trying to complete this. And then we can talk about, can we do it? Bottom line is yes, we can do 400 corners in a year. It's not a problem. I just think it's probably more so in the grant application process to try to leverage as much as we can out of that to use it, and that's what the funds are for.
Okay. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And so,
Gary, can you hear me? I would just let you know that I do support this. And then just a question for either you or Jimmy. So once the corner's in, are they kind of like a GIS location where if I'm a surveyor and somebody's hired me, I can find that corner by GIS. I go right to it, and then I do my survey off of that. Is that how it works?
In a manner of speaking, the difference or some of the requirements for the grant program, and they would basically replicate what we've been doing in the county for the last year and a half, is we do certificates of location on these corners. There's some requirements in that we file a certificate of location with the recorder, that it has a durable iron monument at it, that there's a statement of evidence with a history on the back, and that there's a geodetic position. A geodetic position would be a latitude, longitude, and that correlates with the coordinates that you see in your GIS mapping, Paul, to kind of move forward with your question is yes, you can do it. Do I suggest people take their handheld Garmin out and try to survey their property lines? No. But it is helpful, and it certainly tightens up your base for your GIS layers. I think a lot of times we have people that look at the GIS mapping and they'll see a yellow line that goes through their garage and is total panic, when in reality the line doesn't go through their garage. And this is not just property owners. I have title examiners or title companies or banks that look at this, and this is a CYA thing for them, and they're going to say, nope, you got to prove to me that your house is on your lot. So, but yes, and one of the things that I think there's been some misunderstandings when you've done this work in the past in Crow Wing County, and I've worked in Crow Wing County for a long time. There's work that's been done by previous county surveyors that have went out and either they've got positions on monuments or they've done some section breakdowns, but they've never done the complete package, and they've never tied this thing off. And that's where we kind of have a problem in that I think there's if you go back 6 years, as Gary said, and said, well, we have X amount of corners and we'll be done by now, it probably wasn't, the criteria isn't the same as we use it today. And that's what's kind of throwing this off a little bit.
So Jim, before you leave, so I think I know the answer to this question, but are surveyors like attorneys? Like when you ask an attorney something, and what's your opinion on this statute? They'll give you one opinion, and then if you ask another attorney, you could get something completely different. So I would hope that all surveyors, when they look at a monument or they look at something, they all come up with the same result.
They
Is
should.
that the case?
I'd be lying to you if I said that was the case, but
I kind of figured that.
there are a lot of opinions out there, but I think what happens here, and I think this is where the problems have come up, is that the past county surveyors have either just positioned monuments or kind of went halfway on this. Whereas when we do these certificates of location, it's the complete product. Is there a possibility that there's an error there? Sure. There's a possibility that it could be questioned, but very few corners that are certified get questioned. And it's not a courtesy thing as much as the only time they would be questioned would be as if there was some evidence that was located that no one knew about, or some history that popped up that no one knew about that would change a corner location. Otherwise, something that's certified with a geodetic position and done correctly very seldom gets questioned.
Good, thank you. Yes, Gary, I wholeheartedly support this putting in for the grant application. Great idea.
I will move on. If the car is sold, I had some other stuff, but I'm trying to listen to my.
The car is sold, at least with me, so you don't have to try to resell it again.
Any other questions while we have Jim here, or anything on the survey remonumentation work? I think the one thing that you can digest is you will get these certificate of surveys that you'll actually be able to see the county now move to the color we want it to, without it just kind of being all smattered all over the place. But, okay. Thank you, Jim. Thank you. We're going to switch over to our county park and recreation update. This is probably one of the more fun areas maybe to talk about for county work, because we get so much positive feedback and people can see directly the investments that we've put into these areas. Tom Strack, this is one of his areas that we think he has just shined for us. He has done a mountain of work on all of our parks, trails, boat launches, numerous meetings with our clubs and things like that. And we have tons of really good relationships. And then what's fun about it is just watching the feedback from customers come in and go, wow, unbelievable for county work. But one of the things I think you guys are always interested in on an annual basis is...
Move the side ahead a little bit.
Oh, what's that?
Move the side ahead a little bit further.
Sorry. Is the year-over-year trends. And so here are the three main parks that we have. We have 5. We don't have a count on Big Island or Rush Lake at this point, and Emily hasn't opened yet. But you'll see Milford there. We are down a little bit from last year. Last year, 15,800, and this year, 13,650. Still a lot of folks going to the park.
Gary, is this month to month too, though? Is it year over year? I understand, but
So we have year over year, and then we'll get into kind of days of the week and then use over month on the next slide.
okay. But back on the other
Gary.
side, where are we comparing in '23 the same number of months, because we're only technically probably 11 months into the year,
Okay, go ahead.
and versus '22 where we have a full 12-year.
That's a good question. So I actually went back and pulled through the data just a little bit. And so for 2023, our data is through October. And so what you see for 2022 is the whole calendar year. So if we look at Milford, for example, we're actually 3% ahead from this time last year.
Okay.
For our October data. South Long Lake is the only one we're behind at. We're about 15% behind where we were last year. And then the fire tower is actually 5% ahead again. So we wanted to get you this data. We haven't collected any data for November to December yet. But is everybody kind of familiar how we collect this data? Have we ever kind of tell you how we do it?
Wasn't
we do
it indicator in the ground?
Not quite. So I'm sure you guys have seen how highway department, they have something you drive over and that's how they count data. So we actually took the old AIS counters when they'd bury them in the ground and then they count boats. So we actually borrowed those and they're quite old technology, and we actually either bury them in the ground or we nail them to a tree, and they're basically a metal detector. So every time a car drives by, we count one. So in theory, we're counting people twice as they come in and out, but we've adjusted these numbers, basically divided them in half, and these are just vehicles.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we could...
A bicycle, would a bicycle trigger it, Tom?
Not for the parks. We do have other car counters and vehicle counters set up for bike trails, ATV trails, but they're a little finicky. They're old technology, and we're looking at...
Look for a mass of iron.
Yeah, yep.
How about a golf cart?
Probably.
Good question. For sure. Good question.
But what you can see on this total slide is we are still getting a lot of users to the parks. I really do believe with the expansion of Milford we'll talk about and the fire tower, I think those are only going to continue to trend up. Some really interesting numbers there. A lot of vehicles, even if you estimate just 2 per car, sometimes it's 1, sometimes it's a van load. But if you just estimated 2 per car and you double those numbers, I mean, that's 70,000 just at the fire tower, or almost, a little over 26,000 at Milford. And that's still a couple months to go, where our winter months, well, we haven't had really winter yet, but they seem to get more and more use too. It seems like people are looking for more things to do in the winter as well. Then Tom has also crunched the numbers as far as, peak times. So with Milford, you'll see that around that 11 to 11:30 is the peak time when folks seem to stop by Milford the most. Just some interesting data for you to kind of look at and how that works. Saturday seems to still be a little bit of the most used day of the week for Milford. And it does look like for Milford, middle of the summer is peak time for Milford.
What happened in May?
I don't think,
That's these old car counters giving us some
broke.
fits once in a while.
You could have guessed at a number.
What's that?
You could have guessed.
Yeah.
on to the fire tower. What's interesting about the fire tower, if you look at October, the reason why, that's the fall leaves. So the big draw for the fire tower, that is, October, if you drive by there, that's probably the main reason we've done 2 different parking lot expansions, because it is full. There's a line of people usually wanting to go up it. I think I did hear a story from Commissioner Lepke that he's had firsthand knowledge, or even a drone video of how many people are, walking around enjoying the park.
Awesome year for leaves.
And, but you'll see, it has, a little more of a, middle of the day kind of, peak times for, the fire tower. And then,
Gary?
oh, yep, go ahead, Commissioner.
Gary, we did an expansion, a parking lot expansion up there, I guess? Is that
Yeah.
what you said?
Yeah, how many
Wow.
parking stalls? do you
Oh,
remember?
yes, wow. We're spending a lot of money up there in District 5, aren't we, or?
Well, we try to spread it around a little bit.
I hope we get some more down in District 1.
Commissioner Coring, we haven't spent anything in District 3. So before everybody jumps off the
My
cliff
word.
here.
But,
Very little for.
Do we have a flag we can throw for a foul?
and I think what was, we tried to keep that fire tower open as late as we can until that first kind of snowstorm. So it's closed now, but I think we went pretty deep into November. I think before, almost December, before we had to close it this year. So it's just a safety thing when the ice comes. South Long, same kind of data. It's just a,
Gary, going back on the fire tower, real quick.
Yep.
You said you closed it in December here because of ice and that. Is that just the tower itself?
Oh,
But
yes,
the
good
park
point.
itself is still open.
Good point. We only closed the gate to the tower itself, yeah.
Okay.
So the rest of the park is still open for walking. There actually is it's a popular snowshoeing place.
Okay.
People looking to do that kind of work, activity. South Long, same data, just a little bit different numbers as far as overall usage and peak time there too. I think a lot of folks come to this when they do like to try to fish and do a little bit of swimming at this place is what the main draw is for South Long. We continue to do surveys on all of these. We just picked out some of the you could say we cherry picked. We only had one negative and it wasn't really a negative comment. It was just about more signage and stuff. We're actually going to change something on it, but you'll see that the parks are just very well received, and you'll see some of the specific comments here. gorgeous park, beautiful park. I won't read them to you, but people are absolutely, I think, also proud. If you know, Crow Wing County, you take pride in a lot of things we do, and I think they're proud of these parks too. Somewhere to say, hey, you're coming up to visit, we're gonna go to, you know, if you're in one of these areas, one of these parks. For some, I hear they become family traditions, so like going to the fire tower in the fall.
Yeah.
Milford too, I mean, it's kind of a tradition for families. There is a dark side, I guess, to the parks. We had a pretty good year for vandalism, but this year we've had a couple of things. We had some spray paint just not that long ago down, this is on South Long Lake, the park down there. So, you know, they spray painted on the vaulted toilet. Within a week, we got it back close to what it was. They also spray paint on our concrete picnic tables. We were lucky, it was warm enough, we fired up the power washer and we were able to power wash that stuff off of there. We had to winterize the unit, but at least we didn't have to sit there and look at that all winter long. We try to get it, you know, it just gets tough in the wintertime if they do that stuff. This happens to be, I believe, out at Poor Farm, where we have the 3-panel kiosks at the trailheads. There was some spray paint and graffiti there. So these here are about $100 a pop when we have to replace those. We do have some funding set aside for some of this, but it's still real, you know, money that for some reason folks like to do. Another sign at Poor Farm, we did have somebody dig underneath the fence at the fire tower, which was I can't believe it, but they did. In one of our efforts this year, we are putting...
Hey, Gary?
Yep, go ahead. Yep.
Gary, a question. So going back to that Poor Farm one, is that some kind of gang sign or what is that? I don't understand.
You know, frankly, I don't know. What I tell you we do now with our sheriff's department is we give them the photos and send them the information, and our sheriff's department, at least that gets into their system with dispatch, and that kind of helps formulate where maybe they have more of the patrols and stuff. But as far as the specifics, I have no idea what that is.
Okay. Sounds like kind of like looks like the efforts of a low IQ gang or something like that.
I don't know. You know, it looks like 2023, that little piece there,
The
but
two symbols are identical.
yeah. Yep.
Yeah, it seemed like some kind of gang symbol or some stupid thing.
Well, I think it's the South Long Lake Knuckleheads gang.
Yeah, let's see. You know what? You and I agree on that. There's no doubt about it.
You guys are just too agreeable.
Be nice to
I know it. What's going on, Steve?
That's twice this year.
Well, trying to be
That's twice this year.
nicer and yep.
Yeah.
Kinder and gentler.
So we have the vandalism, to try to continue to stop the vandalism that happens. I don't know that we'll ever stop it, but instead of trying to not talk about it, we've taken the step to actually talk about it. When people are visiting the parks, we're bringing it front and center, showing them different examples of it. And, you know, when they're there and they see that, I hope they can take that back, talk to whether it's their kids, their family, friends, because as a community, that's how we're going to hopefully stomp out some of these shenanigans that are going on. It would cost us real money to fix some of that.
And then, if you could
Oh,
back
yeah,
up just a
you
little
bet.
bit. So obviously, you could see this one's at the fire tower, the one on the left up here. But the one on the right is at Milford, kind of in a centralized location as well. And we will have another one at our Little Emily Park. And one thing that didn't make the slideshow that just recently happened is we did have a theft at Milford as well. Somebody cut the solar panel for the gate and took that with them, so. Yeah.
That's unfortunate.
Do we have cameras yet at those parks or anything that we can, I mean, do we have to have internet available, or these cameras now, will they sell camera or whatever that would, so somebody could just periodically watch it?
Go ahead and,
Yeah, we probably have 12 or 14 cameras now located at the 3 county parks. We actually did catch on video the people that were spray painting down at South Long Lake, but just because of how late at night it was, we weren't able to catch license plates or names or faces. Just, it was too dark.
Well, sometimes that might be just a deterrent themselves, knowing that you could be being watched.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hopefully, yeah. Yep. But no, and it's always a guessing game of where they're gonna do the vandalism, so we try to move them around, try to get the spots that they've historically done vandalism, so now we'll be putting one out at the gate at Milford.
Thank you.
Sure. One of the, I just think it's a really neat thing that we've been able to do in the capacity in land services. It was only about a year ago too, you've approved a environmental services technician where we took park staff, landfill staff, and we created a position that we use them at the landfill and out at our parks and trails. And what we've been able to do is, we get a list of things that we think we should go out and improve. And so when we tail off, you could kind of say in the fall, and a lot of folks either stop coming here or they go back to the cities, or I would say Lincoln, Nebraska, because we have so many from Nebraska that come up here. Our staff are then able to shift gears and they move into some of the winter park cleanup stuff. So some examples of of what's been happening is, right up at the tower, all this kind of brushy area and overgrown, we've been able to kind of clean that up and really improve the view. You're way up on the hill there. Really looks more, I want to say aesthetically, like a park. This is the side view. This right here, you could barely see the old foundation of the back of the yard where the one building had sat up there, I believe. But neat little improvement there. This is on the right here is Milford Memorial Park. Right over here is the picnic shelter and a bench. You could barely, you could see the lake, but it was pretty overgrown, and we've really improved the view and aesthetic. It just looks like it's really cleaned up and taken care of at Milford. Over here, you'll see we're trying to clean up the the downfall. We still have some debris from last year's snowstorm that, bent over, snapped trees. We got a lot of it cleaned up, but still trying to get that all cleaned up and not only looking nice, I think it also helps a little bit on the fire prevention. No pun intended, because of the fire tower stuff. Another shot of the Milford work. So on the boardwalk now you can actually see the pavilion, but this was a lot of just overgrown kind of brush stuff. New this year, we added the picnic tables and benches at the South Pelican Public Water Access. So we haven't wanted people to launch their boats here. You can take your kayak or canoe and launch here, but this has become a very popular swimming area.
Always was.
What's that?
Always was.
Yeah, it's what we've kind of done is try to promote it a little bit.
And they closed.
We've actually gotten positive feedback from the neighbors. We used to get nasty grams from the neighbors because it's only 50 feet. We've done we don't have it here, but we put signs on both sides of the beach that says private property, please respect. And it seems to be, not everybody follows there, but I think it's actually really helped. And I know looking here onto the left, the new owners that have been there about a year and a half have really been pleased with our efforts on not only keeping this little strip clean, but helping them with, people understanding where the boundary of their property is versus not.
Now, to the east of that, is that where the actual, there's a Pelican Lake swimming beach and stuff, is that DNR? That's to the east of that?
Yep, that's DNR, yep, just a little to the
east of
north
that.
and to the
That's
east.
That's all DNR yet, right?
That is all DNR, yep.
Yeah.
That's school trust land there.
So
Is that
Gary,
what that is?
Yeah.
Gary, there's not been any complaints about once they get in the water and they spread out along the shoreline?
I haven't heard, I don't think we've had any of those complaints yet.
Okay.
What's nice of this is those two picnic tables have been removed. So this is for the fish houses and snowmobiles to get on the south side of Pelican. That's what we came up with so that we could let people use it more in the summer and be able to still have it open in the winter, as we would be hearing from a lot of folks if we weren't able to allow those fish houses and snowmobiles to get on the lake there.
Yeah, just to answer that question, I use this a lot with my kids in the summer because the other beach is just so busy. This one's a lot quieter. And what you're finding is that when I was out there this summer, I think there were people in the past who were going down the beach that were using it. And now you're finding that they're not going down the beach. They're out in the water and they're out in front of the plate, but no, they don't care about that. They just don't want them up on their beach and close to their
Right.
house and that kind of thing. So
Exactly.
people are spreading out in the water, but I don't think that's a big issue.
Is there
or
any
concern.
outhouse or anything in that area on that one, or is that just a recreational stop point?
Yeah, the nice thing here, we got a beautiful rain garden and some signage. So we have a 3-panel kiosk that kind of talks about the Pelican area, because we have Jones Bay. That's a county access to the west of this, on the other side of Pelican, that does have a vaulted toilet at that location. So we do try to steer people over there if they need some of that.
Yeah, and I know
Just a
Gary wanted.
curiosity question.
Go ahead, Paul.
Curiosity question on this. How did the county wind up with this little sliver on Pelican?
That's a really good question. It way predates me. I think it's been for.
Oh, okay.
Usually these are old ice roads that were built into plats that went around lakes, and it was back in the day when you'd go onto the lake to harvest ice for your ice house to keep things cold, the refrigeration back in the old days. And so these plats are everywhere where there's these ice roads. They're usually 16 feet, 30 feet wide, something like that. Oftentimes.
How wide is this one, Tim? Do you know?
50. This one's
50.
50.
Okay.
But, so they would vary in width. You have that issue over, I think, on Upper South Long with an ice road access for backlots, if I'm not mistaken. So these are all over the place. I think they are old ice roads. It's the only thing I can ever think that they were. I don't know why else you'd have these little width
They used to
plats.
call them they used to call fire lanes too. They used to have fire lanes like that. I know on some of them they call them.
Access water for a fire truck, I guess, maybe. I don't,
A lot of these are just platted roads, and these plats were done back eons ago for ice or for just simply access for people not off the lake to be able to get down. Access
oftentimes,
to the water.
nobody knows it's there, and it's being used by the neighbors on both sides.
Correct.
Sometimes we know it's there.
Well, and sometimes, the neighbor to the right on this picture would call annually and ask to buy.
Yeah,
I just want to buy it, I want to buy it, I don't want nobody down there. And in some cases, the board has said, yeah, in this case, we don't want to, I can tell you, I thought, oh, maybe we want to sell it. And whether it was Lake Edward, and there's a local community that would not be very happy if they weren't able to have this access on this one here.
Like Rosemary said, they always have,
Yeah,
whatever it is they were doing.
yeah.
Yeah, and on this one, for a while, there was a gate that was closing it
Yep.
off, and Lake Edward was a little upset about that because they said the fire trucks use that to get down for water.
Yeah, I think they have one of those hydrant things now, yeah,
Yeah, but
but not at this
they
location.
wanted it open for that reason.
Yeah, and so there's a lot of things that we didn't put in the slideshow that are not fit for public viewing that the ES techs do on a daily basis. You can imagine maintaining 5 vaulted toilets and 3 county parks like this. So it really is a special thanks to them. They're out there Monday through Friday, 8 to 4:30 every day, cleaning up after people, mowing grass, picking up garbage, blowing leaves, and they love what they do. They are on the front lines of getting that public feedback when they're at the parks. So, special thanks to those 3 guys for getting out there, whether it's 95 and hot and sunny or raining. They're out there installing these tables, putting up the benches, cleaning up the parks. And so I know Gary wanted to get to that, but I'm glad I could beat him to it.
Oh, my finger. Spoken like a good supervisor,
Yes, it is.
Fire tower was the real big significant expansion this year in the parks world or area. Numerous, at least a full mile of trails with stairs, and with some of it has hand railings, pavilions, just a really, really big expansion. And if you haven't been to the Fire Tower Park, if you've been there 2 years ago, you need to go back and look at what it is today. totally expanded and upgraded from what it was 2 years ago. There's the big rock for Commissioner Lepke, I think.
If it's missing, you know where to find it.
So there's the trail map for this, and this has been just great ideas coming from all over, whether it's not only the name, the paved trail, Commissioner Barrow's idea of having more user-friendly access to get to the tower, which when I first started, I'm like, how are we going to do that? Is it even feasible to get it done? And we got it done. It's just amazing. Do we want to have more of an experience than just going to the tower and leaving? And the okay to put these hiker trails in there as just it's a real special place. I encourage everybody to stop and spend an hour or two there. You won't be bored, I don't believe. Then we have the Milford Mine expansion, which is going on currently. Another really, really awesome expansion, and what the experience is there now is just, it was really special, and the tragedy that happened back in 23, 24? I can't remember when the 41 miners lost their lives, but what we're going to do is add, help me Tom, on how many more miles, another 1.5 miles or so of trail.
Yeah, we're about double.
About that. So double the trails, and then we have a couple of pavilions you can see have went up. The one on the right with the picnic tables, you can't quite see it, but it overlooks a pond in the back. It's just beautiful back there, all hilly. I think it's going to be a great spot for folks when they're walking the trails to stop. They wanted to have a picnic or such. The other pavilion overlooks a different part of the lake on the south side. It was just a dead end. Now we're going to link that with a boardwalk to the other side of the park. Tom found the old barracks location up here, numerous benches throughout the park, and different areas where we stop and put signage for our interpretive signs. Oh yeah, you want to talk about parking lot? Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, and we're also,
I'm just looking for the map.
Sure. Yep. So our current parking lot, we have right around 8 to 10 parking spaces at Milford. And with this expansion and the use that we're seeing, we're thinking we might be a little bit short on parking. So we're currently in the process of expanding that existing parking lot. We have secured some grant funds to do that, but we're working through the TEP panel in the state to try to secure a permit to expand that parking lot. It would be just to the east of the existing parking lot, in the bathroom. We'd be existing at another 30 parking spaces for our customers. And if you want to scroll back here, actually.
Oh, sure.
Just a little fun note, our ES techs also, one more. If you see that top left picture there, that concrete is actually free floating. So we had a state archaeologist out there with that barracks building. So they're becoming masons as well, pouring concrete on site and helping just to protect that, that historic feature that we have out there and the history of the park. So.
What is that feature, Tom?
That is the barracks building. So that's where the single men stayed.
Oh.
And it was actually a 2-story building with a dirt embankment foundation. It's quite interesting. So
Yeah.
there will be a sign to come next spring put out there, so we can all go take a walk and read about it.
Yeah.
And you're going to put interpretive signs near those things too, to explain the history?
Of course.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's going to be so cool. That's
Yeah.
going to be very cool.
Like this one on the right will have, this is the old trestle bridge where they're hauling out, this would be more of the rail bed here. So we'll have a sign here talking about what the trestle, we have a picture of the old trestle bridge and what it was. Oh yeah, there's a better view of that picnic shelter overlooking the pond in the back. It's just beautiful back in there. Numerous stairs already been installed. Some handrail work will need to be finished up in the spring. It's been coming together pretty good as far as Milford. Now that it gets really cold, the boardwalks should be going in January, I believe. We call this it's a boardwalk, but pier that'll go out to where the site, where it actually collapsed, that'll all get built this winter. And then early spring, we'll hopefully get final granite on all the trails and wrap up the signage. What's important too is what you're seeing with these signs when you're walking, when you have number 1, if you're standing at number 1 or if you're at a number 2, you'll have this little sign above that shows you where you're at. And it's a safety enhancement that a few commissioners talked to me about, Doug, Steve, about how we can maybe enhance some of the safety. So we are going to change, starting with Milford since we're in the works, but we will have updated signage throughout our parks to mimic this type of setup.
I should make sure they know the loops are closed now on the trails. These are all closed, a bunch of loops.
Yeah, what's funny is Tom does a good job of putting these out there that says this trail is closed, but you'll see a bunch of, footsteps that go around that and go down the trail anyways. How does that work?
Apparently they can't be. I'm sure that's what it is.
We've done our due diligence.
This is pretty exciting. This is the newest park up in Emily on Little Emily Lake. So what you're looking at here is the work the contractor with Tom's supervision here has done on the 150-foot swimming beach, so the clear out there. Only thing that's left with the tree, there's some stumps here that will get removed. They burned as much as they could, but it is opened up. A lot of work has went into that already since, a lot of the pre-planning and PR work. And now when you actually start to see it come together, it's pretty fascinating. It's kind of hard to kind of vision, but there's the way he has the parking lot set up. In this picture, the trees are going to be the natural barrier, and this will be where you're parking, trailer parking over here. So we've left some trees strategically to try to have more of a, instead of having, lights and concrete boulevards, you're going to have kind of this natural tree barrier and look and feel that way in the parking lot.
Typical forester things, leaving trees. Yeah.
Again, down there is, numerous trails will be built too, but it's well on its way. It's coming along quite nice.
Now there we use the notification system, right?
That is correct.
And to less success than County Road 115, I heard. Is that still true?
Well, it's in the eye of the beholder. We've had one, I believe, person other than county staff that signed up for those notifications, so just haven't gotten a lot of activity with it.
Which is really interesting, given how much public input we got on this park. I thought there would be a boatload more interest in progress reports.
Yeah,
So that's kind of odd to me, but it is what it is.
Mm-hmm. And just as a refresher, in the spring, you will see the vaulted toilet, or we'll have playground equipment up there, a fishing pier, will all get installed, I wouldn't say maybe spring, it could be into June on some of that stuff, depending on when it shows up.
Yeah, and actually, starting maybe late this week, next week, they're still working out there. I mean, this mild winter that we're having is doing us a lot of favors with getting a lot of this done. We could easily have 1.5 feet of snow right now, and we wouldn't have gotten half of this done. So they are going to start, like I said, late this week, early next week, starting to mow some of those walking trails out. So that way we're just that much farther ahead come springtime.
And so there's the park progress on Little Emily, and to wrap up the recreation area just of land services, I just got to say with Chris and Tom and the staff, what's really fun is, somebody has a vision. Usually it's coming from a board member, and we've been blessed with some funding sources the last couple of years, and we've been able to go out and basically make it real in some of these areas. So that has been fun, and the team is really strong in this area. That it's like they crave that. I want to say we all do. Don't get me wrong, but they work so hard. If they see one little thing out of place, they want it just perfect for those customers, and that feedback to be very high. So it's fun to watch folks going out there and not just taking it like in a job. They're really embodied into wanting to be the best, well-maintained parks system in this state. And I know that's lofty, that might sound arrogant, but that's what we're doing, and that's fun. It's really fun. Of course, every other county is going to tell you the same thing. We really do believe that here too.
Madam Chair, before we go, we also have the one that get quite involved in because it's up in the district, is the Raleigh-Johnson Island. And just to bring a point up of that, the Raleigh-Johnson Island, I don't think we spend a lot of time out there as a county out there, but there is an entrenched group of volunteers that has been, their average age, I think, was 75 or 80, and they've tried to revamp to get some younger people in there. But they go out and they put out 20 cord of wood, I think, a year split and get it hauled out there. Looking forward to doing that this winter if we get enough ice. I don't know if they come back and ask for the county for anything, but I know that the Raleigh-Johnson family had, the matriarch of the family had passed away, and they put some more money into that to try to do some things out there. So I know we don't get out there very much of the county, but I want to make a point that there is one of the parks we have in Crow Wing County that is well used because it has camping islands and stuff out there that is pretty much volunteer driven. And they do a nice job, and it'd be interesting to get those numbers also in one of these packets, even though it isn't something we're working a lot on. I mean, it is our park. It is in the county, it is our park, but it is one of those cooperative partnerships that doesn't happen real often where we have a lot of people involved in it, so.
No, great point, Commissioner Lupke. We would like to, participate more. We've put a few signs up.
Yep.
We would love to do more. They have some existing, they've been handmade and stuff, and I get that.
Yep.
Maybe over time,
And I think that's what it'll come to. It's one of those kind of parks where it's really hard to have county staff going out to help because you've got to go across a body of water to get there.
Right.
And the people that are the entrenched volunteers, and that's what I have to call them, because they work really hard to go out there every day, make sure it's kept clean, make sure they do this and that, and they're not asking really for anything much. They do get a stipend. People have been put money in there. And they just did a bunch of work on that whole front area. We used Heather Bird from the DNR to help us out with what plants should be and shouldn't be there, and did a really nice cleanup on that beach area, and just want to make sure that that isn't forgotten, because it is one of those gems where I don't know how many counties have a park that's out in the middle of the lake.
I couldn't think that it would be that many of them,
so-
but.
Some counties don't have a lake, so that would eliminate that possibility.
Good point, never thought about that.
That is an interesting one. It is not branded as a Crow Wing County park, and here's why.
Well-
It's Crow Wing County, the DNR,
Yep.
and Ideal Township. That's who oversees Raleigh-Johnson Natural and Scenic Area. We participate
Yep.
with Ideal Township. We send them $5,000 every year. That helps to offset the expenses. So it's not really branded per se as a county park because it's a collaborative park.
And we're not really expending much more than that $5,000, so we're not sending staff out there on a weekly basis to make sure everything's clean.
They would
and
need a boat.
tidy.
Yeah, I mean, if we're going to ask that they take on responsibility to maintain that, they would need the ability to get there.
I have an idea of that if you guys ever wanted.
Big raft. I don't know.
But it is, if you've never been out there, it is a pretty neat
That's
place.
why it's working so well,
Yeah.
frankly, is
Well, what we can do too is, we'll try to put in the hopper to see if we can get some timely updates from them on their users. I'm
Yeah,
sure they
I
have
think
it.
that they-
If we could get that, we can incorporate it into.
I'll bring that up at the next meeting, because they are very proud of it. And if you don't believe it, just show up at one of their meetings sometimes. So, thank you.
It's a great place. We took the Land Services leadership team out there this year, and half didn't even know it really existed.
Right,
And
right.
I'm like, oh, you got it.
The other thing I'd like to just bring up, so this is what, over the years, the county, if I remember right, before I was even involved in this, county didn't really have much for parks they were doing. And now we've taken a real effort to have these recreational areas for our citizens and our neighbors and our guests. What are we looking at in the future? I mean, Little Emily is just the newest one that came out. Is there anything looking down the road in the future?
It's a great point, because I missed on what I wanted to say about Milford. The one thing we want to bring back to the board for consideration is develop more of a master plan. Right now, for Milford, as we have the capacity, if there's a will to expand even more, we potentially could do a walking path around the whole lake, if that's something, just as one idea. But to see if we could do that with every park. Are there other strategic things we want to do long-term to enhance the experience at the parks? Right now, we don't have direction to be looking for new parks. The last one, of course, is Emily. That comes from a board and member that got at least 2 more votes, to do that. So that's our focus currently, is enhance, like this year we started doing our in-house mowing on our hunter hiker trails, ski trails, which has went very well also. So currently we've just been focused on that, not really going out to make new parks, even though we're in the middle of making a new park.
Yeah, just, where is there should be a vision down the road. I mean,
Sure.
it looks like this has been good investment of the dollars we're using, because most of those dollars, from what I understand, come from the land sales and the timber sales, most of them.
Yep, with some grant funding on the side of that.
Funding
Yep.
on top of that.
Yep.
It's pretty proud when people come to the county and say, have you ever been out to Milford? And I'm going, no, but I better get there. And, I was even down at the South Long Lake one just to see what that looked like, so.
Sure.
Thank you.
Well, now you got to go to Pelican. You've been to that one.
That?
The little Pelican one, the little 50 strip.
Yep.
The last item we had for you was just to put on your, I guess, radar, so you guys aren't shocked. Our forest resource plan, I call it our Bible, that guides our foresters on how we're going to manage our forests. How much are we going to cut? How are we going to do it? And follow those best management practices. That expires in 2025. It's not as a big lofty goal as updating the comp plan that Chris is heading up right now for you folks. But this also is going to be, it's not done in 6 months. It takes a little time. So what you'll see is we have a forester out there that can do a lot of take our actual inventory, help us with some long-term modeling, and we'd like to get that, we're going to get that project rolling here in '24, just as a FYI. Tom, did you want to say anything else on this forest resources plan?
I think you covered it pretty well. I don't think our management strategy is going to change much. It's just the holdings that we have changed a little bit since we did the model the first time in 2014. So we want to make sure that we're working with the best data we have. And we have a consultant teed up that's ready to help us run that model for the next 100 years and tell us what we can sustainably harvest, and then get some input from the public.
Gary, you're aware, I was impressed with this going out to 2113. I'll be 163 or 173 years old by that time, just so you know, but I appreciate the longevity that you're giving me.
Well, you're welcome. It is easy for me, and it's a hard thing because I'm like I'm just, but definitely we got to have more of these. Not, 100 is pretty extreme, but more strategic visions on a lot of different things. But yeah, trying to actually be serious on a funny one there.
Tom, from a forestry management perspective, I note the note from 91 to 99, the average annual harvest was above the normal or the sustainable levels, trying to correct an imbalance in the age.
Yeah.
So my question is really, looking at this portfolio from a forestry management perspective, are you comfortable that this is sustainable?
I am. So if we look at, if you look at the actual right-hand side, the total column, that's the important part here. If you looked at everything to the left, you'll see that those numbers vary. Those aspen numbers, they're going to go up a little bit, but other stuff is going to drop down. That we've always operated what we call an acre control. So we know how many acres we have. We want to figure out how many of those acres we can sustainably harvest year after year after year after year, because that will get us to a point where the logging community can rely on us, that we're going to have a certain amount of cordage. Management can rely on us, that we're going to bring in a certain dollar amount. And then we're managing sustainably. We're not cutting too little, we're not cutting too much. So I am comfortable. The only thing is we just need to rerun that model with where we're at today. Yeah, we did a lot of heavy harvesting, years back, and now, we're working in some of those constraints where we're starting to harvest a little bit younger aspen, but that's going to start to change here. As you can see, when we get into the 2034, 2043, we're going to start harvesting a little bit more, trying
was
to,
noting.
trying to, trying to bring that back when we look at our aspen ages from, 10-year increments, to have that just a flat bar across the top where we have equal age class groups throughout the county, because we don't want a big spike.
That's what I was thinking, is we
not
don't
what-
want to do this.
No.
We want to do this.
That's what we're working
If
towards.
you're comfortable that that's what we're getting, that's what I was after.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep, and we just need to run that model first.
Very good.
That's big for this.
Madam Chair, Tom, so we know that there's some sort of climate change taking place, and we know that the trees that survive in cooler weather are moving further north and not surviving in the southern, at least the southern part of the state. When you replant, are you looking at that as a consideration when you're 50 years out before you're going to harvest?
Of course. Yeah, so our management focuses on native plant communities of Minnesota. So when we're out managing stands per our forest resources plan, we have very specific guidelines on when we should maybe convert to forest or try to manage for a certain species that might be better suited in the future. So for example, if we have a very sandy site and it's all oak, that's not something we want to try to push for in the future, because it's just going to keep getting drier and drier. So we'll convert that to a more natural stand of pine, for example. So it is something that we're looking for in our management. We keep working with those native plant communities into the future.
Really hard to predict.
Of course.
It is.
Yeah, really hard to predict which ones will survive, which ones won't. How much water will be enough, how much is too much, I don't know.
We do the best we can with the knowledge that we have today. Yep. And then we also wanted to give just a quick little update on our audit. So every other year, we have auditors come here from a company that help make sure that we're doing things right. So we're held to the SFI standard, the Sustainable Forestry Initiative standard, and that's an international standard that many counties in the state and organizations and paper mills are held to. And that's making sure that we're providing a good sustainable flow of wood, we're treating the landscape right, we're doing things sustainably. So this year was our turn to be audited. We are part of a 4-county cooperative, and so with us, we get audited every other year. The cooperative gets audited every year, but for Crow Wing County, we get audited every other year. This year we had a good audit. They were here for a day. We provided them with all the sites that we harvested from October to October, and they picked out the ones that they wanted to go see. They found a couple minor nonconformities that had more to do with the cooperative itself, some timely reporting things, some new standards for the SFI protocol for 2023, but nothing related to Crow Wing County's management practices. So we did have a good successful audit, no major cars, that's the big thing. 2 minor things that we already had addressed and taken care of. So we did have a good successful audit too.
Cool. Good news.
Anything to add?
It just helps galvanize, are we on track with, is this sustainable?
It's the good housekeeping seal of approval for
Yep.
forestry.
Yep.
Now I'm dating myself. Good housekeeping doesn't do seals.
I believe that's all we had for you.
Dating yourself, 'cause I've got
Madam
it.
Chair, I'd just like to thank the staff, you guys, for everything that you do. I know this has been a busy couple of years with these parks and that, but I've also had good feedback about the mowing process this fall and getting the trails ready for cross-country skiing and that. So just appreciate everything and pass that on to your staff and what a wonderful job they're doing. I know they work hard and they're out there every day, and if they like cleaning latrines, I guess that's okay. We appreciate it.
Someone has to love our trees. And hugging them is okay. If you want to, go ahead.
All right, is there anything else? Okay, meeting's adjourned.